Hello everybody. Welcome back to G Bear's Off-Grid Ways, a homestead in the desert. Got a lot to cover today, so let's get right with it. We're going to touch on a little bit of solar today. And a question I had online was setting up the solar controller to work with 24 volt panels. All right, let me explain something to you. The solar controller really doesn't care too much about whether you got a 24 volt, a 36 volt, or whatever volt panel. The way you don't have to change any settings in the settings on the controller to hook your panels up. Now, when I first started, I started with those panels over there, which are all 100 watt panels. And they're not all the same, but I've got them 3 the same at the bottom, 3 the same at the top, different model. Over there, 3 the same at the top, different model. And here, down at the bottom, 8 the same, different model. So I have them all grouped as the same type of panels, tied together in series. Okay, so the way you're going to do your setup on your controller so that it knows what you're doing is, like I've said before, always connect the battery bank to your charge controller first. That tells the computer board inside of the controller what voltage you're dealing with. Now, say you're doing a 24 volt system. You hook your 24 volt battery bank up to that controller, it's going to boot up and say 24 volts coming in from the battery bank. Okay, so that's all that controller really needs to know at this point to get your simple solar system working. It doesn't care if this is a 100 watt panel or a 300 watt panel or whatever. Okay, it doesn't care. All you want to do is group those together in the same sequence and make sure that the total amperage of your solar panels does not exceed the total amp rating of your charge controller. So if you bought the charge controller and it said it was a 20 amp charge controller, the maximum you can put into it is 20 amps. Now, each one of these panels is going to be close to 10 amps. So I could only use 2 of these panels in parallel. No, in series, I'm sorry. Or parallel. In series, where I connect positive and negative, I could add probably 2 more because the amps will all remain the same. It'll stay at 9.85 amps each. And 4 of them will increase the voltage in series, but the amps still stay at 9.89 or 9.85 amps. So I could put that into a 20 amp controller without a problem. Okay, so I could use 4 of these panels and be putting in 1200 watts into that controller because I'm upping the voltage and keeping the amps down low. So the wires inside the controller can handle the current that's going to be flowing through them. That's the important part, okay? Now, if you're using stuff like little 20 amp PWM controllers and that stuff, don't try to hook up a bunch of panels like this to it. Don't even try to hook up 4 to it. That's not what that thing is going to do for you. It just will not produce what the power outage that you want it to produce. Now, a lot of those will have them listed on 600 watts max input. But you have to remember, Ohm's law comes into play whenever you're talking about anything electricity, whether it's hardwiring in your house or it's solar wiring for your solar panels, on-grid or off-grid, it doesn't matter. Ohm's law says you multiply your volts times your amps, and that gives you your watts. Okay, so you can use that equation backwards. If you want to know how many amps the thing is, you take the watts and divide it by volts, and that'll tell you how many amps it is. All right, it's very simple. It's not a lot of algebra. Q equals PRC. It doesn't care. Just keep it simple, Sam. You know what I mean? All right. So that being said, for a small PWM, like a 20 amp or a 10 amp PWM charge controller, use that to power a small inverter or something so that you can charge your cell phones and laptops or run a couple of lights while camping, things like that. It's not going to give you a good power source for an off-grid living. Now, if you want to go off-grid living, go over and see Tony and Leanne at Doing Redneck Things Off-Grid. I referred them to a SunGold Power all-in-one. It's a 10,000 watt system, and they hooked it up to their existing battery bank just by modifying the battery bank from a 12 volt system to a 48 volt system, and they are getting outrageously good results from it. So go over and see what they did in their last couple of videos, and that would be the type of unit that you want to buy nowadays if you're going to go off grid. Okay, now Sherry the secretary is ready to pull the trigger on buying her solar setup, and she's going to SunPower Gold also. And the reason I recommend SunPower Gold is I did a little bit of research on them before I started talking about them. I really do want that system, and I want to do that system, set it up here in a 48 volt system with the 10K inverter, the 10K all-in-one, pure sine split phase system, and run my Homestead off of it. And I will vouch for the integrity of those their products. They seem to me to be everything that you would want for an off-grid system. And so far, Tony and Leanne buying one on my recommendation. I helped him get set up on the system because he's not too up on electrical and that stuff. I helped him get it going, and now he tells me that it's great. He can run his whole Homestead on 4 of the 12 volt lead acid batteries that they're deep cycle batteries, of course, but he can run his whole Homestead on 4 of those instead of his like 20 something that he has. I think he has 25 of them or something, somewhere in there. So he's going to be putting all of those batteries in, and just think about it. When the summer comes around, if he's running everything he needs to run right now, he's going to be able to turn his air conditioner on and just let it run. He's going to have enough power to do that. That's going to be a great thing for him, especially since he lives in the Nevada desert. All right, so we got that all settled. I wanted to cover that. Now, another thing is, I did take care of my neighbor's pump problem today. The guy did apparently step on the wiring right beside the motor and had it bent down, and apparently the thing shorted and arced the contacts in the switch on the unit, and the pump wouldn't turn on because the contacts were arced together. Okay, so I fixed that, got it up and running. She has water pressure. That's a good thing, right? So that's all settled. Now, while I was laying in bed last night thinking about all this, the thought came to me, one of these days I'm going to do a full video on what I learned about moving off grid. And one of the things I learned is you can put up fences and you can put up signs, no trespassing, private property, private road. You can do all that stuff. And guess what? There are freaking idiot dirtbag scum tweakers out there, and I'm sorry I had to put it so lightly. But the other day, I was sitting in the cabin, and I hadn't been outside moving around a bunch, but I had just gotten back, and I was going to be going back out again. So instead of locking the gate, I just closed the gate cable and just put the padlock through it so that it was closed. And it locks to a sign that says, "Private road, turn around here." Okay. So I heard the dogs barking. I was sitting in the cabin having something to eat. Heard the dogs barking. I got up, and they were running down this road over here. And they started jumping all over this SUV that was right there by that bush. Okay. And these idiots actually pulled up to that gate with the signs on it, opened the cable gate and threw the lock and stuff on the ground, and ran over my reflectors that I have on that wire so people don't run into it at night, and broke them, and then drove in here and came right onto the compound. And excuse me. And I stepped out when the dogs were running after him, and they were jumping all over the vehicle, and this guy was scurrying to try to turn around and get the hell out of here, because it was him and a younger kid in the passenger seat. And I yelled out to him, "Can I help you?" kind of sarcastically. And he goes, "No, no." And he took off down the road and went back, and I watched him. He actually stopped and put the gate cable back up again, probably because he knew I was watching him. But what a dirtbag, okay? And I can tell you, the only reason that he came through that gate to come onto this property was he thought nobody was around, and he came here to steal something. He came here to rip me off, okay? So, you know what? Don't get lazy. Lock the gate, and only take a second to stick the key in the lock again if you want to go out again or whatever. The only time I'll leave it unlocked right now is if I know one of my neighbors is coming over. I'll make sure I leave it unlocked so they can get in. I'm sure that idiot, I didn't see him, but I could check the security videos. I'll bet you anything, he actually looked in the mailbox too to see if there was anything in there he could steal. What a scumbag. Can you imagine that? All right. Questions and comments down below. Thanks for joining me. This is G Bear signing off.